Today, I have a helper. The water gun's going in the water over there, buddy. Um, so I am standing over the lower cowling and the lower unit of a 4-horse Mercury outboard that I found on Craigslist for 15 bucks, and I got it for 10 because the power head unit was back. Behind me, I have a lawnmower that my father-in-law had an extra one laying around that he did not need anymore. So what I intend on doing today is mating the power head from that lawnmower to this outboard using old school rigging techniques like cutting the deck from the lawnmower, bending the deck to fit over the cowling, or on the inside of the cowling I have machine screws and tap and die kits that I'm going to tap the deck into so that it has a way of screwing onto the cowling before I figure out a way of mating both the shaft from the lawnmower to the shaft of the outboard. I took been doing this over the last couple of weeks. I took the lower unit out, drained it of all its gear oil, put in new gear oil, ran it with a drill to make sure that it still rolled correctly, make sure that it's stuck on all 3 gears, forward, neutral, and reverse. I just did a water test on it with an old Rubbermaid tote. My soon-to-be 4-year-old is running around playing with it. No, that's the trash bin. Put it down. That's trash. Okay? Go get your water guns and go play with the water, okay? Over there.
Let me see.
Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to measure the cowling, or the bottom unit, or the base of where the motor used to sit. I have it currently attached with machine screws and hex nuts, and it's going to be a pretty basic setup. I plan on putting a small, this looks like a 3/8 inch pipe shaft. I'm going to measure it with a caliper. It's got a toothed gear head that I think I used either, looks like an 11 millimeter or a 12 millimeter 6-point socket on it, and it just fits just nicely. So I might get some JB weld and find a socket that fits the shaft tip and make sure it fits before I JB weld it into place, and then just adhere it that way and then stick a screw through the top socket hole so that way it'll screw onto the shaft and sit there if it's tapped already, which will be perfect. I kept the low. I've seen a lot of guys just get these old outboards and rip out the lower cowling off of it and mounting a plate to it. What I really wanted to have was the stock shifter and the stock tiller for it. Now this throttle assembly that's on here still, I'm gonna have to cut that out. So I've got a piece of scrap wood on me right now, so I can start writing measurements. I think I might go with the whole 3.5 inch thick for the band of the metal I'm gonna cut off from the deck from that lawnmower, and keep the mounting holes for the existing lawnmower. Just basically made it to the top of this. So that's what I'm doing. Why am I doing this, you ask? Well, because about 2 months ago I found a 10-foot John boat, an aluminum John boat, on Craigslist for free. So I figured, free boat, look around for an outboard, and I found this outboard locally for, like I said, for 15 bucks on Craigslist because I had a bad power head. And I figured if I waited just enough, I can find one with a bad lower unit and I can do a Frankenstein. So on the Melbourne Craigslist, like a month before I found this one, someone posted a 6-horse Mercury outboard with bad lower unit. I figured it would be an easy mate. 2 horses isn't that big of a difference. It's a slightly different bore.
Garbage, garbage,
They're all garbage?
Yeah.
Those don't work?
Yeah.
I guess we need to buy new ones this year. But before I can get that motor, it's sold. So that's when I got the idea of the lawnmower. So that's what I'm doing today. Seeing if I can get the lawnmower somehow mounted onto this, and then made it to the lower unit that I just did a water test on, and it does move water both in the forward and reverse gear, so that's good there. I didn't see any water discoloration normally when you see when oil hits the water, so nothing like that happened. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on today. It's mid-April in Florida, so it's hotter than a monkey's rectum right now. It's humid because it's the first time we've gotten any actual heat in the last few days. It's been raining a lot. It's our rainy season right now. So it'll rain for a few hours and then it'll be nice, hot, and sunny again, so it's really muggy out here. So if I start sorting, it's not because I'm doing anything. As you see, I'm not moving. I'm just sorting just from not moving under the shade of a tree. So, from tip to the beginning of the place, about 4 inches. Okay, so the existing mount holes for the outboard are about 3 inches apart. It's a 4-inch by, I want to say another 5.5, 6. It's a 4x6 plate. A lot smaller than the mounting circle for the whatchamacallit, for the lawnmower. So going from the front to the back, roughly at 8.5 inches. It's at 8 and about 8.5 inches from the front, from the back of the column to the center. So from here to here is 8 inches, which is about here, and then from here to the sides, should be about 3.5, 3 3/4. You can see, yeah, about 3 3/4 on both sides. So the shaft is roughly either 1/4 inch, no wait, 3/4. The 4 1/4, it's about a 1/2 inch shaft. Now I'm going to measure the lawnmower. About 8 inches. Well, the lawnmower is roughly an 8-inch circle. Maybe 9-inch circle. 9 inches. So what I'm going to do now is just draw some lines on here with cuts using the board as my straight edge, since I can't find one straight edge. Cutting it. you know what? I'm thinking I just might cut the deck straight into a square and then use the deck by itself and hover it over the cowling and see if I can just use either wood or if I can get away with bending the metal so I can flap over it and then measure the distance between this shaft and the other shaft and make it work and rig it. Welcome back. I have been a little busy. I mounted the piece of wood that I got for the transom to the back of the John boat. I siliconed it in place so it won't rattle or fall off. I used stainless steel screws to mount it. I also used a pair of eyelets to so I used the eyelets to have tie-down locations for the back of the boat. But whenever I get a trailer for it, if I ever do decide to get a trailer for it, or if I decide to tug something with it, like a small little inflatable, my kids can be on and so forth. Just for future things. I didn't want to get a cleat for it because it's a small enough boat, you really don't need a cleat. It has a handle in the front, I need something in the back, so I used the 2.5-inch eyelets. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see what I'm looking at. That is the choke lever for the lawnmower. I mounted it to the tiller. I needed something that would allow me to keep the engine running since I don't have a throttle for it and no way to turn it off. And I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, which is key. I don't want to reinvent the wheel for anything. So where that blue tape is where I'm going to cut it off with my cutoff wheel along with the plastic. In a little bit, I'm going to let the plastic protrude further than where the metal stops, so that way we're not rubbing up against sharp edges. I'm going to use the pre-existing way of mounting it. I'm going to see where the length, how far it actually needs to be for it to choke correctly, so I'm going to leave that floating for now. I started to dismantle the lawnmower a bit. That right there is where the choke cable came from. I thought about it after I made it, so I made a small wooden handle for the lawnmower pull cord. I just should have used the one that came with and just shortened the cable out. I used the same knot that the lawnmower cable had before, so I just wanted something a little bit. I mean, if I'm gonna make a redneck outboard, I might as well just leave that and use the pull from the motor that it came with. So it is roughly around 4:30 in the afternoon. That's the cradle that I made so far for it. I need to go rent a gear puller to pull the blade mated piece down off of it, and then see how much of an if those two pieces come off together, which I hope they don't, because I eventually want to add an alternator and to have the motor already have a pulley on the shaft would be ideal. But if it does come off all in one piece, I'll just cut it off with my trusty Sawzall. I tried using my grinder with a cutoff wheel, but the cutoff wheel ran out and went down to the hub, and I have a replacement, but the damn hub would not come off. So I thought, well, let me see what my trusty Sawzall with a bimetal blade could do, and sure enough, she cut through that lawnmower deck like a hot knife through butter. I haven't taken the throttle assembly off of the not the assembly, but the throttle gearing off of the lower cowling just yet.
don't know if I'm ever going to use it, so I don't want to really rip it off, or maybe I'll find a lawnmower that has a throttle on it and replace this one with, but I doubt it because this one is, like I said, 160 cc's. Here is the remnant of the deck. I cut it down with the Sawzall. I straightened it out as best as I could with my hammer and one of my workbenches that I have out here that I use as an ottoman. So I took a wire wheel to it and took off all the rust. I gave it a coat of paint because I'm not sure when exactly I'm gonna have more time to continue working on the modification to the outboard. So where that slot is right there, that is the forward slot. So where that slot is, then depending on where how the shaft comes off, the pulley comes out. If all that comes off as one piece, hopefully it won't. But if it does, that will be facing towards the rear of the motor. I mean at the outboard. So that will not be feasible. I might have to rotate it either 90 degrees or 180 degrees and see how the holes line up. But I see it's all painted brown right now. It's kind of tacky. I took the wire wheel and painted the underside because it was all rusty, and then the top side. And so when she dries, she'll dry to a nice dark brown or rust brown, which is better than having actual rust on it. And then I'll paint it bright red to match the top of the lawnmower engine. So aside from almost having a heat stroke out here already in April, just my ADD is kicking in big time. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm having a sugar low and I can't concentrate. And I'm not diabetic, luckily, but I haven't eaten since breakfast, so my gut is controlling my actions. And I had some water, but for right now, I'm gonna leave the outboard in its current state. I have to go grocery shopping, and then probably sometime this week or next weekend I can start figuring out how to make the two components. And then once I get the gear, the shaft actual diameter, I can order a coupling. And I love the breeze, but I hate damn airplanes, guys. So welcome back. I've taken the outboard off. The motor off the deck, and as you saw, I modified the deck so that I can start bending the flat metal bars out that are sticking out of it into what will be the legs to keep it vertical. And then I need to find a way to remove the coupling for the lawnmower blade, as well as see if the coupling is a two-part coupling, which I hope, because I want to use that pulley that's on it right now to drive a small alternator from like a small obviously four-cylinder Honda or Geo Metro, something like that, just enough so I could run and charge a battery, so I can have a radio. I know this is a 10-foot John boat, but you know, I do have an old CD player that I'll hook up to a pair of 5 1/4 inch speakers and fiberglass the crap out of that and make it so it's watertight, and have a portable boom box. But the boom box will be running off of DC, and I'll have a 12-volt battery and a small voltage regulator to make sure that the alternator doesn't fry the battery and in turn fry the electronics. I bought some LED lights for the bow, some navigation lights, and a stern light. I understand this vessel is less than 15 feet and it's not a requirement, but it's for myself so that when I'm out on the lake at night, or if I get caught in the dark with it, I have that operational, and that's why I need to have a 12-volt system on the boat. All right, so thanks for watching Leo Builds It. I hope you guys comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know if you guys have any idea, if you guys have any questions I would like me to answer. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.